Dear God's chosen ones, have you ever stopped to ask yourself why your life has been a battlefield? Why the storms hit you harder than anyone else? Why the betrayals cut deeper, the losses linger longer, and the challenges seem relentless? Could it be that you are not ordinary, but chosen? Think about it. Do you really believe that the fire raging against you is by accident? No. Every disaster, every heartbreak, every weapon formed against you was carefully planned. They didn't just hope you would fall. They crafted your destruction with precision, like architects of ruin. They wanted to crush your spirit, burn your hope, and bury your dreams so deep that you would never rise again. You noticed how they watched and waited, certain that you would break. They think that the weight of their rejection, their deceit, and their sabotage would destroy you completely. They whispered, "This one will not survive. This time it's over." But let me ask you this, are you not still here? Are you not still standing? If their plans were so perfect, if their attacks were so devastating, how is it that you have not been defeated? I'll tell you how. It's because you are chosen. You are not here by accident. You carry something within you that they cannot destroy, no matter how hard they try. You carry the favor of God Himself. Does this sound familiar? Maybe it reminds you of the story of Joseph, son of Jacob, in the book of Genesis. Joseph was betrayed by his own brothers, his flesh and blood. Out of jealousy and hatred, they threw him into a pit, sold him into slavery, and plotted to erase his destiny. "Come now, let us kill him. Then we will see what becomes of his dreams." Genesis 37:20, they said. But their schemes were only part of God's plan. What they meant for evil, God used for good. The pit could not hold Joseph back. Slavery could not keep him down. False accusations, imprisonment, and loneliness. None of it could stop the favor of God on Joseph's life. Because Joseph was chosen, from the pit to the palace, he rose. From betrayal to authority, he thrived. And it can be that you are walking the same path with him. So, do you curious now why the battles are so intense? Why you feel the fire burning all around you? Look at your life. Look at the scars you carry. Yes, those scars are real. But do they not tell a story? A story of survival, a story of endurance, a story of battles fought and won. Those scars are not marks of shame, they are marks of victory. They are the evidence that you stood tall when others fell, that you kept going when others surrendered, that the fire that was meant to consume you only refined you. You were not made to fall, you were made to rise, you were made to thrive. So rise now, chosen one. If you feel this message, if you know you have been set apart by God, I want you to comment 777 below. It is a number of alignment, signaling that you are walking in the path God has prepared for you. When you type 777, you are declaring to the world that you are chosen, that you will not be defeated, and that your time to rise has come. God's chosen ones, let the world know. They created every disaster to kill you, but you rise from hell. You are unstoppable. You are unshakable. The first disaster you faced was personal, and isn't that always where the deepest wounds are cut? It was the kind of pain that storms into your life without warning, breaking down everything familiar and leaving a haunting emptiness where there was once certainty. Loss. A word so small, yet it strikes like a hurricane, stripping away joy, purpose, and identity. It leaves you asking questions no one can answer. Why did this happen to me? Where was God in this storm? How do I go on when everything I held dear has been taken? Let me ask you this. Have you ever sat in the silence after a storm, staring at what remains of your life, wondering if you'd ever feel whole again? How many times did you cry out for answers, only to hear nothing but echoes of your pain? Job once stood where you stood. In a single moment he lost his family, his wealth, his health, everything that made life feel stable. The Bible tells us, "Then Job arose, tore his robe and shaved his head, and fell to the ground and worshipped. And he said, 'Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord.'" Job 1:20-21. What kind of faith does it take to worship in the face of such loss? Have you ever wondered if your grief might hold a deeper purpose? You see, grief doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to shape you. You wrestled with it. You let the tears fall, and with every tear, you proved that the pain did not own you. You learned that grief is not a sign of weakness, but a testimony to love. Love so deep that even its absence carries weight. But loss was only the beginning. Then came betrayal, striking like a knife in the back, cold, sharp, and merciless. There is no pain quite like betrayal, is there? Who among you has trusted someone with your heart, only to watch them twist it for their gain? The very people you believed in turned their backs, leaving you to question, did I mean so little to them? How could someone I love hurt me this deeply? Even Jesus knew the sting of betrayal. Judas Iscariot, one of his 12 disciples, one who walked beside him, learned from him, and shared meals with him, sold him for 30 pieces of silver. Imagine that. 30 coins, the price of a slave. And yet, Jesus looked at Judas and called him friend. Friend, do what you came to do. Matthew 26-50. Pause for a moment and think, what would you do if you knew the person you trusted most was plotting against you? Would you be consumed by anger, or would you rise above it, refusing to let their betrayal define your story? Betrayal did not define Jesus' destiny. It fulfilled it. And so it was with you. When trust was broken and the walls you built came crashing down, you stood in the rubble and made a choice. You realized betrayal says more about the one who betrays than the one betrayed. Did it hurt? Yes. Did it break you? No. Instead of growing bitter, you grew wiser. Instead of hardening your heart, you let the pain sharpen your purpose. But then, when loss and betrayal had weakened your walls, self-doubt crept in, that insidious voice that whispers when no one else is around. You're not enough. You're broken beyond repair. Why even try? How many nights have you fought battles no one else could see? How many times did you believe those lies, letting them keep you chained to fear and regret? Gideon knows your struggle. When the angel of the Lord appeared and called him, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior," Judges 6:12, Gideon's first response was doubt. But how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I'm the least in my family. How many times have you said the same thing? Who am I? I'm not strong enough. I'm not good enough. But listen closely. God didn't see Gideon as weak. He saw him as a warrior. And what if I told you that God sees you the same way? What if the voice of doubt isn't the truth, but a test? What if every time you rose, every time you proved doubt wrong, you were building something far greater than you ever imagined? You silenced that voice. Not with empty words, but with action. You fought back. Every time you stood up when it would have been easier to stay down, you sent a message to yourself and to the world. I am greater than my fears. I am stronger than my pain. I will not quit. Now look at yourself. Those battles, they didn't destroy you. They revealed you. The ruins of trust, you've rebuilt them into a foundation no storm can shake. The ashes of loss, you've turned them into the fuel that fires your purpose. The shadows of doubt, they're now behind you, nothing more than proof of the battles you've won. So, what if every disaster was meant to prepare you, not break you? What if everything you've endured was shaping you for a destiny far greater than you can imagine? You see, the scars you carry aren't marks of defeat. They are proof of triumph. Every scar tells a story. Every story declares this truth. They couldn't destroy you because you refused to let them. You were refined, not ruined, strengthened, not shattered. And now you stand, not as a victim of your past, but as the architect of your future. Who are you now? You are the survivor they couldn't silence. You are the warrior who wouldn't bow. You are living proof that the fire meant to consume you only refined you. So, I'll leave you with this. Will you see your battles as curses, or as the tools that made you who you are today? Will you let the story end here, or will you rise knowing that you are greater than the storms that tried to take you down? Because you, my friend, are unbreakable. And they never saw you coming. You conquered the storms within, loss, betrayal, and doubt, but the fight didn't end there. The next battlefield stretched beyond your heart and mind. The obstacles weren't just personal anymore, they were systemic. Yes, the second disaster you faced was systemic, an entire world that seemed determined to keep you small. The odds were stacked. The ceilings were built low. Do you know the feeling of being told you don't belong? That you'll never make it? That the road you're walking is too steep, too rough, too impossible? Oppression came at you like a tidal wave, crushing opportunities before they could take root. Inequality carved barriers into your path, ensuring every step required twice the effort. Where others were given ladders, you were handed walls and rejection. It wasn't just silent, it shouted, it called you unworthy. It sought to erase you, invalidate your voice, and convince you that the shadows were the only place you'd ever belong. Have you ever noticed that the brightest light breaks through the darkest cracks? That is exactly what you did. You didn't cower in silence. You roared back. You took their ceilings and shattered them into glass shards. You ripped apart their chains with the force of your will. Every time they told you, not you, you rose and declared, "Watch me." Does this not remind you of Moses standing before Pharaoh? Egypt's oppressive system was designed to keep the Israelites enslaved, their backs bent under the weight of labor, their voices silenced under the rule of power. Yet, in Exodus 5:1, Moses spoke boldly before the ruler of the most powerful nation, declaring, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, let my people go." Who would have believed that a shepherd, a man who once doubted his own voice, could challenge the strongest empire and win? And you, what gave you the courage to rise when the odds said you couldn't? When the institutions labeled you less than, when opportunities were denied, when the world tried to keep you quiet, you didn't give in. You became louder. You turned their silence into thunder. You became the voice that wouldn't be silenced. Where they built walls to block your progress, you tore them down stone by stone. Where they tried to cage you in shadows, you clawed your way to the light and claimed it as your own. Every system that told you this far and no further became nothing more than a challenge, a chance to prove that no system can hold back a soul driven by purpose. Did they underestimate you? Of course they did. They saw your struggle, but they missed your strength. They forgot that even the smallest crack can topple a fortress when the pressure is constant. Every act of defiance, every refusal to quit, became a ripple that grew into a revolution. In Galatians 6:9, the Apostle Paul tells us, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." You didn't give up. You kept showing up, even when the world tried to push you back. You planted seeds in soil they said was barren, and now Now you stand as proof that resilience can thrive where others only saw failure. So, how many times have they told you it's impossible? And how many times have you proved them wrong? Every barrier they built was a dare, daring you to fight, daring you to rise, daring you to claim what they said you couldn't have. You didn't just survive the systems designed to erase you, you turned them upside down. You became the outlier, the exception, the one who rose when everything was against you. Every step forward you took became a revolution in its own right. Every yes you carved out of their no became a reminder that you are not someone who can be caged. Let the world hear you now. My rise is inevitable. Say it, claim it. Because they thought the odds would break you, but instead they built you. They thought rejection would silence you, but you became louder. They thought you were powerless, but now you are the force they cannot ignore. Claim your power, stand in your light, let them see that nothing, not oppression, not rejection, not the weight of an entire system can hold you back. Because you, my friend, are a revolution in motion, and nothing can stop what has already been set in motion. You fought battles within yourself, and you tore down systems that tried to cage you. Yet even as you rose above man-made barriers, the third disaster, the forces of nature itself came next, unrelenting, raw, and merciless. Nature came for you, not in whispers, but in roars. It sent storms to howl at your door, floods to swallow your foundations, and fire to turn your hard work into nothing but ash. What could you do when the world itself turned against you? When everything you relied on, your home, your security, your stability, was ripped away, what was left for you to hold on to? The storms came first, didn't they? They howled in fury, tearing through your life like an unstoppable force. Your foundation, the very thing you thought was secure, was flooded. How many times did you feel like you were drowning, barely able to keep your head above water, clutching for something solid, something certain? Remember Noah. In Genesis 7, the floodwaters came, and they didn't just drizzle, they consumed the earth. For 40 days and 40 nights rain poured without pause. But Noah, faithful and patient, clung to God's promise. In that ark, surrounded by the chaos of the storm, Noah waited. When the waters finally receded, he didn't return to the life he knew. He stepped into something new, something greater. Isn't that what you did too? When the waters rose, you climbed higher. You didn't let the flood drown you. You rose above it, trusting that even when everything is swept away, a new beginning is waiting on the other side. Then the ground beneath you shook. Life, which once seemed solid, cracked open without warning. Earthquakes have a way of breaking what we thought was unshakable. Have you ever been there? Standing on trembling ground, looking around at the wreckage and wondering, is this the end? How do I rebuild when the very ground is unstable? But earthquakes don't destroy, they reveal. They shake loose the weak foundations, exposing what cannot stand. And so you learn to build again, not just on the surface, but deeper, stronger, unshakable this time. And the fire, oh, the fire. It roared with no mercy, consuming everything you held dear. How do you face the flames when there is nowhere to run? How do you watch the fruits of your labor turn to ash, knowing you can't stop the fire from spreading? Do you remember Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the book of Daniel? They were thrown into the fiery furnace for refusing to bow to an earthly king. The fire was so fierce that it consumed the soldiers who threw them in. Yet, in Daniel 3:25, the king looked into the flames and said, "Look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods." The flames were meant to destroy them, but instead they revealed the presence of God. And when they stepped out, not a hair on their heads was burned. Isn't that you? You walked through the fire, but you emerged not as a victim of destruction, but as someone forged by it. The fire didn't consume you, it refined you. Nature tested you to your very limits. Droughts came to test your patience, forcing you to endure seasons where nothing seemed to grow. Hurricanes pushed you to prove your strength, tearing away the old so something new could take its place. Quakes demanded resilience, shaking everything loose until only what truly mattered remained. What did you do in those moments? Did you surrender or did you rise? You didn't just endure nature's fury, you faced it head on. When the winds tried to scatter you, you held steady. When the floods came, you climbed higher. When the flames roared, you walked through them, unscathed and unbroken. You proved something that few will ever understand, that nature's power may be fierce, but the power within you is greater still. Every disaster that came to strip you bare, to reduce you to nothing, instead revealed the unyielding spirit within you. Where others saw devastation, you saw opportunity. Where others gave up, you rebuilt, not to restore what was lost, but to thrive in ways they could never imagine. So, have you ever wondered why the storms, the fire, and the earthquakes came for you? Was it to destroy you, or to show you who you really are? Because now look at yourself. The winds have passed and you are still standing. The waters receded and you are still rising. The fire burned and yet here you are, stronger, bolder, and more alive than ever. Nature thought it could outmatch you. The world thought it could break you. But it underestimated the force of a soul that refuses to bow. You are proof that no flood, no fire, no shaking ground can take away what is meant for you. You didn't just survive, you conquered. Tell me, what is left to fear when you have already faced the fury of the earth and risen from its wreckage? Stand tall. Speak boldly. Show the world that no disaster, no matter how unstoppable it seems, can match the unstoppable spirit within you. You stood unshaken through the storms, the floods, and the flames, but then came a battle of an entirely different kind. This was no external force. There were no winds to face or fires to outrun. What happens when the war is not around you but within you? What do you do when the fiercest enemy hides in the silent corners of your mind, whispering lies, twisting truths, and trying to steal the very essence of who you are? The fourth disaster was spiritual, an invisible war fought in the depths of your soul. It wasn't the earth beneath you that shook this time, it was your faith. Not a single drop of rain fell, yet you were drowning. There were no flames, but your purpose felt as though it had turned to ash. Have you ever felt that hollow emptiness? The echo of meaning lost, the suffocating weight of doubt pressing against you like a vice, whispering, "What's the point? Why even fight?" Faith, once so steady, so sure, shattered like glass. Every sharp shard left you bleeding with questions. Is God even here? Am I alone? What if this is all for nothing? These were not battles the world could see. They were invisible wars, raging in the quiet hours of the night, where no one else could hear the cries of your soul. You were not alone in this struggle. Even the great prophet Elijah faced this darkness. In 1 Kings 19, after his victory against the prophets of Baal, Elijah fled into the wilderness, overwhelmed and broken. He cried out to God, "I have had enough, Lord, take my life." 1 Kings 19:4. Can you feel the weight of those words? This was Elijah, God's chosen prophet, reduced to despair, hiding in a cave, ready to give up. Have you ever felt like Elijah? Have you ever looked at your life and thought, "I can't do this anymore. I have nothing left to give"? Despair doesn't shout, it whispers. It convinces you that the fight isn't worth it, that the darkness is too deep, that you might as well surrender to the void. But here's what they don't tell you about despair. It is not the end. It is a turning point. Elijah, in his brokenness, heard the voice of God, not in the fire, not in the earthquake, not in the wind, but in a gentle whisper. And from that whisper came his purpose, his renewal, his strength to rise and continue. You too heard that whisper. Maybe it came as a flicker of hope, a stubborn refusal to quit, or a quiet voice inside saying, "Keep going." You didn't yield. You faced the darkness, even when it felt like it would swallow you whole. And when your faith crumbled, you didn't stay in the ruins. Instead, you built something stronger, something unshakable. What you rebuilt was not blind belief, not empty words repeated in desperation. No. What you forged was a hard-won certainty, a faith that had been tested by fire, sharpened by pain, and refined in the furnace of your trials. When despair whispered, "You are powerless," you answered with action. You refused to let hopelessness define your story. You dug deep into the depths of your soul and pulled out light. And when no one came to save you, you became your own salvation. Isn't that what Jesus himself did in the Garden of Gethsemane? On the night before his crucifixion, he fell to the ground in anguish and prayed, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done." Luke 22:42. Even Christ, the Son of God, felt the weight of his purpose and the darkness pressing in, but he chose to stand, to act, to face what lay ahead with strength and surrender, and so did you. The spiritual war was designed to break you, to leave you hollow, hopeless, and lost. But instead, it refined you. It stripped away everything false, everything fragile, and left behind something unshakable, unmovable, unstoppable. Let me ask you this. Who are you now that you've faced the void and refused to fall into it? Do you see the strength in yourself? Do you recognize the power that comes not from avoiding darkness, but from standing firm in its midst and saying, "You will not defeat me"? You emerged from this war with something priceless, a soul that knows its worth, a faith that cannot be shaken, and a light that no darkness can extinguish. Where others would have surrendered, you rose. Where others saw only a void, you found the courage to fill it with purpose. You didn't just endure the spiritual disaster, you conquered it. And now, when the world looks at you, they don't see someone who gave in to despair. They see someone who refused to be defined by their darkness. They see someone who became the light. So I ask you again, what did the war within teach you about who you are? Did it not show you that even in your weakest moments, you were stronger than you ever imagined? That even when your faith was shattered, you were capable of rebuilding it into something unbreakable? Let the world see that the darkness couldn't hold you, that the questions didn't define you, that the void couldn't swallow you. Because you, my friend, are not just a survivor. You are a conqueror. You are proof that even the battles no one can see can be won by a soul that refuses to surrender. The wars within were fierce, but the fight wasn't over. As the dust settled, a truth began to emerge. A truth that would change how you saw every disaster, every pain, every betrayal. What if none of it was accidental? What if every storm that came for you, every fire that burned you, every rejection that tried to silence you was part of something far bigger than you realized? You see, these challenges were deliberate, a calculated, ruthless assault on your very existence. Loss, betrayal, inequality, rejection, they weren't random acts of chaos. Each disaster was a weapon, sharpened and thrown at you with precision. Do you feel it now, looking back? The way the weight pressed against your shoulders, the way the pain tested every part of who you are. They wanted to see you crumble under the force of it all. They wanted to bury you so deep that no one would even remember your name. Have you ever wondered why they fought so hard to destroy you? Why the trials came in waves, one after another, as if the universe itself had turned against you? It's because they saw something in you that you might not have seen in yourself. Power. But their greatest mistake was believing you would stay down. They underestimated you. They thought the blows would break you, but instead they became the forge that turned your pain into power. Every weapon they hurled at you didn't destroy you, it transformed you. Do you realize what you've done? You turned their destruction into your reconstruction. Look at the life of Joseph once more. His brothers threw him into a pit, sold him into slavery, and hoped to erase him from their story. For years, it seemed as though Joseph's life was nothing but a chain of suffering, false accusations, imprisonment, abandonment. But in Genesis 50:20, Joseph spoke a truth that echoes across time. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Do you see now? What was meant to bury you became the very thing that built you. The rubble they left behind wasn't a grave, it was raw material. Every loss you endured became a lesson that shaped you. Every betrayal sharpened your focus, giving you clarity about who you are and where you're going. Have you ever stopped to think about that? That the things you thought would end, you were, in fact, preparing you for something greater. The storms they sent didn't leave you weak. They left behind the tools you needed to rebuild. Can you see it now? The foundations you stand on today are made from the very bricks they threw at you. The rejection they hoped would silence your voice became the loudest echo of your defiance. The oppression they thought would crush you became the solid ground from which you rose. They believed pain would be your ending, but they didn't realize that pain was the fire that forged your purpose. Every scar you carry now tells a story, not of defeat, but of triumph. The scars that once marked your wounds became the blueprints for your rebuilding. The setbacks that were meant to stop you became stepping stones that elevated you to heights they never imagined. And so I ask you, what are you building now? Can you feel the empire rising around you? Every failure they tried to force on you is now fuel for the unstoppable force you've become. You didn't just crawl out of the wreckage, you claimed it. You gathered the ashes of destruction, and with your own two hands, you built something unshakable. Let this be the truth you carry. You are not a victim of what happened to you. You are a master of what you've made from it. Think of David standing before Goliath. The world saw a shepherd boy, unqualified and small. Goliath laughed, mocked, and underestimated him. But David declared, "You come against me with sword and spear, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty." 1 Samuel 17:45. And with a single stone, the giant fell. Did they underestimate you too? Did they think their weapons, loss, rejection, and despair would be enough to take you down? They forgot that what lies within you is greater than anything they could throw at you. Now look at yourself. You're not just standing, you're building. Every brick they hurled at you is part of the empire you're creating. Every setback is now a monument to your resilience. Every time they said, "This is the end," you proved that it was only the beginning. They tried to destroy you, but all they did was make you inevitable. So, one more time, who are you now? Are you someone who crumbled under the weight of it all? Or are you the one who turned their destruction into your legacy? Because you are not just a survivor, you are a conqueror, a builder, and a force they will never forget. Every trial, every betrayal, every storm only added to the unstoppable force that you've become. They tried to write your ending. Instead, you wrote a beginning so powerful, so inevitable, that nothing and no one can stand in your way. Chosen ones. Do you know that in Japan there exists an art form called kintsugi? It is a practice that honors what is broken, not by hiding it, but by making it beautiful. When pottery shatters, it is repaired not with glue, but with veins of gold. Each crack is transformed into a line of strength, a mark of resilience, a visible story of rebirth. What was once ordinary becomes extraordinary, and its value is not diminished by the damage, it is magnified because of it. Isn't that what you've done? Have you ever looked at your scars, your emotional fractures, and realized they tell the story of your rise? The disasters that came for you, the losses that shattered you, were never meant to be your ending. They were the beginning of your transformation. Every scar, every wound, every fracture you carry has been filled with gold. The gold of your strength, your resilience, your unyielding spirit. Where others might have hidden their brokenness, you let yours shine. You didn't mask the damage, you turned it into your power. And now you are no longer just whole, you are unshakable. Let me ask you, have you ever thought that the cracks in your life could be your greatest beauty? That what the world sees as broken is, in fact, the proof of your endurance? Remember the words of the Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians 12:9, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Paul didn't hide his wounds. He celebrated them because he understood that where he was weak, God's strength would shine the brightest. And so it is with you. Your fractures, your imperfections, they don't diminish you. They reveal your true brilliance. You've taken what tried to destroy you and turned it into a visible, undeniable testament to your resilience. The storms didn't bury you. They uncovered the strength that was already within you. The fire didn't consume you. It refined you into something sharper, brighter, and unstoppable. Let's make one thing clear. This isn't for the faint of heart. This story, the one you're living, isn't for posers or pretenders. It's for those willing to stand in the wreckage, stare down the chaos, and rebuild into something greater. Do you think you have what it takes? If you're here reading this, then you've already proven one undeniable truth. You are built for this. Every ounce of strength you possess was forged long before the disasters came. Resilience wasn't something you discovered in the chaos. It was something you uncovered, a force waiting to be unleashed. When the storms hit, it wasn't luck that carried you. It was your ability to adapt, to outthink, and to outlast. When the world thought you were finished, when everything seemed lost, you didn't rely on hope alone. You clung to the unshakable knowledge that you were made for more. How many times did they say, "You won't make it"? And how many times did you rise? How many walls did you tear down? How many flames did you walk through, proving that your essence was never fragile? It was forged for fire, created to overcome. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "That which does not kill us makes us stronger." But you've proven this truth with your life. What broke others only sharpened your edge. What caused others to stumble became the momentum that propelled you forward. Pain became your fuel. Despair became your purpose. And failure? Failure wasn't the end. It was the very force that launched your next victory. Have you noticed how much stronger you've become because of the struggle? The comfort you once craved wouldn't have made you who you are today. Your strength wasn't born in ease. It was carved in adversity. Every disaster, every hardship, every rejection, these were the tools that shaped your transformation. In Romans 8:28, we are reminded, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Nothing was wasted, not the pain, not the trials, not the failures. Every moment was a stepping stone, building you into a force the world could not deny. Look at yourself now. You are the embodiment of resilience, the very definition of strength forged in fire. You don't just survive, you conquer. You don't just endure, you rise. You are what happens when pain meets purpose, when scars become blueprints, and when adversity is met with resolve. Have they understood you yet? Have they realized that every weapon formed against you only made you stronger? That what they thought would destroy you became the very thing that defined you? Now you shine, not in spite of the cracks, but because of them. The lines of gold running through your story are proof of your victory, proof of your transformation, proof that you are unbreakable. So, are you ready to claim the empire you've built from the ruins they left behind? Let the world see that you are not fragile, not defeated, but reborn, stronger, sharper, and more brilliant than ever before. Because you, my friend, are not just surviving. You are inevitable. You are the Kintsugi masterpiece, a testament to what happens when resilience meets resolve and brokenness is turned into brilliance. Beloved chosen ones, every trial you faced, every blow you absorbed wasn't random. It was deliberate, precise, and designed to break you. Loss tore through your life like a storm. Betrayal sliced through your trust. Rejection tried to silence you. But each strike didn't weaken you, it revealed you. The fire didn't consume you, it tempered you. Weakness gave way to steel. Devastation became the foundation of something unshakable. They thought they were crushing you, but they were only chiseling away the excess, revealing the unyielding core within. Have you ever wondered why you didn't stay down? Why, in the middle of chaos, you kept moving forward when others would have stopped? That wasn't luck. It was your resolve. The pain you felt wasn't a sign of failure. It was proof of transformation. When the ground beneath you collapsed, you didn't wait for someone to pull you out. You rebuilt it stronger, brick by brick. When systems locked doors in your face, you refused to knock politely. You tore those doors from their hinges and walked through with a purpose they couldn't deny. This is the truth. You didn't just endure, you transcended. Every scar on your body and your soul tells a story of triumph. Do you see them that way yet? These aren't marks of defeat. They're reminders of battles won, lessons learned, and strength gained. Rejection, which they hoped would silence you, only sharpened your edge. The betrayal that sought to break you became the lesson that refined your focus. The rubble they left behind was never your grave. It was the raw material for your rise. Every failure they tried to force upon you became momentum, pushing you toward a victory they couldn't stop. Think about Thomas Edison. When his entire laboratory, the result of years of innovation, was consumed in a devastating fire, he stood in the ashes and said, "I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." His response to ruin was not despair, it was action. He didn't focus on what was lost, he focused on what could be rebuilt. And within months he was back at work, creating, innovating, and reshaping the future. His fire didn't erase his genius, it revealed it. Isn't that what you've done? When disaster struck, when your life felt stripped bare, you didn't surrender. You tapped into something deeper, a force of resilience that was always within you, waiting to be uncovered. The truth is this: what happens to you doesn't define you. It's how you respond. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are a builder of your future. Stop seeing the rubble as proof of your failure and start seeing it as the foundation of your triumph. Every brick they threw at you in an attempt to break you is now in your hands, ready to be reshaped into something even greater. What was meant to destroy you has only fueled you. Every time they underestimated you, every time they whispered, "You can't," you quietly turned it into, "Watch me." And let's be honest, you didn't wait for permission and you didn't wait for rescue. You fought for your place. You didn't let circumstances dictate your worth. You demanded your success. Every ounce of strength you possess was forged long before the chaos began. You didn't find resilience in the storm. You uncovered what was already within you. You turned devastation into opportunity, failure into forward motion, and scars into the legacy of your rise. But here's the thing, no one does this alone. Surround yourself with those who understand the fight. The right people aren't just supporters, they are your armor. Build a network of those who have walked through their own fires, who've emerged from their storms stronger, sharper, and ready to lift you higher. These are the ones who will remind you of your power when doubt creeps in, the ones who will stand guard when you need to rest. Together, you'll form a force that doesn't just survive, but thrives, one that turns personal victories into collective triumphs. Protect your energy fiercely, because healing isn't passive, it's a daily battle. Cut off what drains you, whether it's toxic relationships, harmful environments, or your own self-doubt. Prioritize rest, nourishment, and growth, because this isn't selfishness, it's survival. You can't rebuild from ashes if you're still burning yourself out. Every choice to heal, every step you take toward fortification, is an act of rebellion against the forces that tried to break you. You are not just recovering, you are fortifying. You are becoming sharper, stronger, and more relentless than ever. So ask yourself this: what will you build now? Every scar you carry is part of the masterpiece you're creating. Every setback has only added to your strength. You are not defined by what happened to you, but by how you've turned it into power. This is not the end. This is the beginning of something unstoppable. You are not just a survivor. You are a builder, a visionary, and a force the world will not forget. When the storms came, they thought they'd bury you. Instead, you rose. When they pushed you to your limits, they didn't realize they were only revealing how limitless you truly are. You didn't just endure, you conquered. You didn't just rebuild, you created a foundation that others now look to for hope. Your story is a beacon of possibility for those still walking through their fires. Proof that no disaster, no betrayal, and no rejection can define a soul determined to rise. Let the world see you now. Every trial, every flame, every broken piece has led to this moment. You are the living embodiment of resilience, the walking proof of what happens when adversity meets resolve. No matter what comes next, remember this: you are unshakable, unstoppable, and undeniable. You didn't just rise, you transformed. And the fire that tried to destroy you, it became the very light that now guides your way. Chosen ones, let me emphasize again, you are not here by accident. Every scar, every trial, and every moment you thought you wouldn't make it was preparing you for this, something greater than you could have imagined. Psalm 35 reminds us, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning." And now, morning has. Every disaster that was meant to break you only revealed your strength. You didn't just endure adversity, you turned it into your power. Where others saw endings, you saw beginnings. Where there was rubble, you built foundations. And where others gave up, you rose. Proof that resilience isn't just grit, but a divine gift. You are no longer a survivor. You are a builder, a leader, and a torchbearer for those still trapped in the ashes of their own storms. Your triumph is a reminder that no fire, no betrayal, no storm can define your future. Your strength has become a ripple, inspiring others to rise, to rebuild, and to transform their pain into purpose. This is not the end. It's the beginning of something unstoppable. You are the spark that turns destruction into creation, chaos into clarity, and despair into a revolution of hope. The world hasn't seen the best of you yet, and they will watch in awe as you build, rise, and inspire. If this message resonates with you, if you see your story in these words, share it. Share it with those who need a reminder that their battles can become their victories, that their scars can become their strength. Let your story inspire someone still trapped in the rubble to believe in their rise. To each of you who has embraced this message, thank you. Thank you for your courage, for your presence, and for being part of this movement of resilience and transformation. I honor your journey, and I celebrate the battles you fought to stand where you are today. May you be blessed with unshakable strength, boundless hope, and unwavering faith. May every setback you face be a setup for something greater. May you rise higher than you ever dreamed possible, and may your light guide others to do the same. Keep building, keep rising, and keep inspiring. The world is better because you are here. You are unstoppable, and your time to shine is now.